I know that this may be downright sacrilegious to admit, but I am a 25-year-old who up until literally a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, had never played a Pokemon game besides Pokemon Go. I watched a little bit of the anime, disjointedly, and only in passing. As a kid, obviously I saw plenty of Pokemon cards growing up, and I was familiar with the Gen 1 basics, you know. I knew a good handful of the Gen 1, like, classic Pokemon, you know. Everyone knows Pikachu. I knew Jigglypuff. I knew Snorlax. I knew, Slowpoke and Gengar. You know, like, I knew the basic guys from Gen 1, like, the very popular, iconic guys, Charizard, etc., right? But I decided, because so many people I know are into Pokemon, and it's such a gap in my cultural experience, I would get into it. And over the last 2 months, I've been playing a ton of Poke MMO, which for those of you guys that don't know, it's basically an emulated version of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Emerald, Black and White, or Diamond and Pearl, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, maybe? No, it would just be Diamond and Pearl. And then now Black and White is the most recent one they've added. I believe I got that right and in the correct order. But that's Gens 1 through 5. I am still in Gen 1. I am still in Kanto. I started in Kanto. I'm playing it. It's those games all stitched together and made into a big multiplayer MMO with trading and a market and an economy and raids and all PvP, all that good stuff, right? It's super fun. It's a great way to play through the classic Pokemon games up to Black and White. I'm watching through the anime. I just the other night actually watched the Return of Mewtwo special. Went hard as fuck. I would say it's my second favorite now in the list of like movies and specials, right behind the first movie. So as a fresh Pokemon fan, you might understandably think, or you might understand why I thought, I should say, that there isn't really much politics discourse to be had in this scene. I mean, come on. It's Pokemon. Like, what politics is there to this fun little game about throwing balls and fighting monsters together, besides whatever implied political themes might be in the media itself? But fundamentally, what arguments or debates are there to be had with anything to do with politics in the Pokemon community? Well, just so happens it seems that's become a real issue literally as I've gotten into Pokemon. It's like, wow, Xanderhall is now into Pokemon. It's time for there to be dumbass discourses about culture war stuff in that community for him to talk about. So thank you to the gods of Pokemon for making that the case, but also fuck you to the gods of Pokemon for making that the case. Because this might be, at least on a surface level, as a new Pokemon fan who does not know the backstory or the lore, the memes, or the cultural insights of what Pokemon represent what to the community, this looks like the dumbest drama I have ever seen. Now, I learned about this drama because Chud channels started uploading videos that were responses to supposed SJWs and lefties and progressives, woke people, whatever you want to call it, that were claiming those who do not like Chikorita, who is a Pokemon, as one of the 3 starters in the new Pokemon Legends A through Z game, are misogynistic. Chikorita, for those that don't know, looks like this. This is Chikorita on the left. This is its evolution, Bayleaf, and this is its final form. I actually don't know its final form's name. I'm going to be honest. I'm still very new to Pokemon. I have not played this gen yet. I'm still quite a bit away from Gen 2. I'm trying to IV breed and get into Meganium. Thank you. Meganium is apparently not everyone's favorite final evolution. People are not necessarily the best. Like, Chikorita's just never been that popular. That is what I've heard consistently from Pokemon fans. And so having Chikorita as one of the 3 starters taking up the grass slot in the newest game, the grass starter slot in the newest game, that's disappointing to some people. However, there is a contingent of people on the progressive side of the Pokemon community, of which I guess I'd consider myself a part of that side, who argue the outcry of disapproval of Chikorita is based in misogyny. My general understanding, my genuine understanding of this claim, is upon the basis that they believe that Chikorita was a Pokemon made for girls. And that this is obvious, and if you are a guy and you do not like Chikorita, then you're misogynistic. Now, I thought this was honestly made up. I thought that it was the right making up progressives to make fun of, until a video got pushed in my recommended by a YouTuber named Cecilily. It's got 65,000 views in 2 days. The comments, when you sort by newest, are not very kind, but the comments, when you sort by top, are generally quite understanding. So what I'd really like to know is what the fundamental claim is here. Like, I'm not going to go in like your average conservative who hears a claim that just doesn't really make sense on the surface level and gets really guarded and says, no, I refuse to hear your argument because that's ridiculous. I'm not one of those people, but I will put up front going in that I do not see how not liking Chikorita as the grass starter, like, let's say you like to always go grass starter and you don't like Chikorita as a grass starter, like, I don't think that's misogynistic. Particularly because I watched the first few seconds of this clip, and the creator shows a clip of one of the people who are supposedly a misogynist upset about Chikorita, and I watch that guy's clips, and I've seen the video it's pulled from, and nothing he says is, like, even, like, close to misogynistic. But I'll hear out the video. I will hear out the video.
I love Chikorita. Like, I love Chikorita. I have a tattoo of Chikorita. I have a full team of shiny Chikoritas. My secondary channel is called Cecily Loves Chikorita. Go subscribe. And when she was revealed as one of the starters in the upcoming Pokemon Legends EA, this was my reaction. We are catching Pokemon. Chikorita! Chikorita! Don't die of Chikorita! It's epic! What the f***? Let's go! Mega Chikorita! Let's Mega Meganium! So yeah, Pokemon...
I am glad that Chikorita fans are getting like, because every Pokemon should get a moment in the limelight, right? I don't disagree. I don't, like, think that Chikorita shouldn't be the... I don't have enough Pokemon experience to be like, ew, Chikorita. I think Chikorita's adorable. So, I don't have anything against Chikorita. It's just, like, when I hear Pokemon fans who seem to be upset that a grass starter slot in a new Pokemon game is taken up by a Pokemon that isn't very good, like, mechanically, like, if you're kind of a tryhard sweat, I can understand why some Pokemon fans might be a little upset, right? Like, maybe they really like Bulbasaur. They really like Snivy. I think it's one of the grass starters.
Day was huge for me, and I'm extremely hyped for Pokemon Legends EA. I have been wanting to have a Pokemon adventure in a huge city, bustling with life, colorful characters, side quests, small stories, and Pokemon living with us since forever, really. And I went online to celebrate and talk to other Pokemon fans about the incredible trailers we just saw. And then I made the mistake of logging into the mental health website, and I was welcomed by...
Okay, so they're definitely chuds.
And I was welcomed.
I'm still on this IDK, or I don't care who likes these things, bro. Who's picking this shit over Cyndaquil and Totodile? How does their brain function? Okay. A little toxic, but not misogynistic. DEI starter lineup. This is sick work. That is Connor Eats Pants, who I'm pretty sure is being highly ironic. Calling it a DEI Pokemon starter. I know who Connor Eats Pants... Isn't he, like absolutely memeing? You guys know who Connor Eats Pants is, right? I'm not, like, thinking of someone else. Like, he's fine. He's joking. Yeah, like, this is an extremely obvious ironic joke. Like, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of chuds out there that are like, DEI! And they could not tell you what DEI is for the life of them. That is what this comment is making fun of those people.
Bye.
Exactly. Chikorita isn't the worst because it's bad in battle. It's the worst because it's ugly as fuck. Okay, that guy doesn't like Chikorita's design. Game Freak rolls worst starter trio of all time. Asked to stop development immediately. Wait, this isn't even shit-talking just Chikorita. They don't like Chikorita, Tepig, or Totodile. Guys, you can call me a piece of shit for this. I know he's really good. Tepig is probably my least favorite of these three. I I think Chikorita's adorable. I think Totodile is adorable. I'd say Totodile is probably my favorite of these three, and Tepig is my least favorite of the three. I don't hate Tepig, but definitely my least favorite of these three. I'd say Totodile. If I could choose the starters for this game, I would pick Totodile, Bulbasaur, and for fire starter, who would I pick for a fire starter? You know what? Since they did 2 Gen 2 starters, fuck it, Cyndaquil. I like Cyndaquil, actually. I think Cyndaquil is super neat. And I know the Typhlosion leaks are a little distressing, I know. But I like Cyndaquil. I like the idea of how Gen 2 made you go from, like, the most heavy-hitting, scary-looking, most on-the-offense-looking starter Pokemon was Charizard, which was the fire starter. And then instead of having a super, like, aggressive, like, on-the-offense fire starter Pokemon in Gen 2, they made it based on a Porcupine that uses fire defensively. Like, it's got fiery quills that it uses, like, to attack things that are attacking its back. It's, like, it's more defensive-based, right? And I thought that was a really cool way to mix things up. And so, like, the concept of Cyndaquil, for that reason, intrigues me a lot. I would like Cyndaquil as the fire starter rather than... Say fuck it and make it just Gen 2 starters. You know what? Say screw... They should have just made the fire starter, like, Cyndaquil as well. Screw it. Why not?
Totodile, great. Tepig, amazing. But Chikorita, are you kidding me?
And I was just confused.
Like, I watched that guy's videos. He's not misogynistic. I saw that clip. He's complaining about how apparently Bayleaf will be the final evolution. There's something about... For some reason, he was complaining about how we could have gotten Mega Meganium, but instead we're getting Mega Bayleaf. So he doesn't even hate Chikorita. I think he just doesn't like that we're not getting Meganium as a Mega Evolution. We are getting Mega Meganium. Or maybe he was mad that we're getting Mega Meganium instead of something else. It was, like, I don't see the misogyny. Like, I don't know. I want to hear the argument, though. Let's hear the argument.
Amazing. But Chikorita, are you kidding me?
And I was just confused to see so much hate directed specifically at Chikorita. Like, yes, it's always like this. Some people will dislike some Pokemon, and you have your usual haters. People saying that everything after Gen 1 is trash, people thinking that Garbodor existing is an argument, but this was an unusually strong amount of hate. The type that isn't really usual for Pokemon. It reminded me of something that I couldn't quite identify yet. And people were joking about Chikorita.
For those who don't know, there's a lot of object-based Pokemon, like garbage bags, like Garbodor, or like key rings, or chandeliers, things like that. Because in Japanese folklore, it's believed that, like, household objects gain a soul and consciousness and, like, sentience when they're, like, recognized as a object, like when they're labeled and recognized and cared for, or even uncared for. I think it's called a yokai, yeah. And so yokai inspired a lot of Pokemon designs, and that's why a lot of Pokemon designs are, like, inanimate household objects made into, like, little guys. Like, that's where that comes from, and that's why, like, Garbodor, a garbage bag, like, full of garbage, is a Pokemon. It's supposed to be, like, almost like a garbage bag yokai, almost.
Chikorita only having 7 fans, but I can assure you, my streams here trying to get Bayleaf to Master Ball rank bring much more than 7 people. Something weird was in the air. This wasn't usual Slender, this was harsher. Something was calling me for some research in old Nintendo interviews and a 30-minute long essay. And then I saw this message.
Here's the thing, alright? Here's the thing. I have been in this position where I'm in a situation where, like, I can see something that no one else recognizes, and it's infuriating. That is why I'm giving this video the time of day and, like, hearing out the argument. I've been in a situation like this where I'm like, I have a vibe. I have a vibe. There's something I'm noticing that I can't shake. And no one else takes it seriously, but then it ends up being real in the long run, like in hindsight. I've been in that position, and so if she is in that position right now, I assume she her pronouns, someone in chat was asking before, so just let me know if I'm wrong. I'm willing to hear out this argument because I've been in that situation before, and if that's the case here, then I get it. You know, I've been there before. Let's find out what this point is. How is Chikorita a women's Pokemon, basically.
And it connected to synapses in my brain. This is certainly an interesting way of looking at it. Could the explanation for this unwarranted hate for one of my favorite Pokemon be rooted in something that the gaming community knows far too well? Could it just be hating things that are made for girls? Wait. Before you click out of the video, press the dislike button and leave a very impolite comment, I would just like to call your attention here to the title of this video. Do you see it? It's a question mark. Am I saying that it's definitely surely rooted in misogyny? No, I'm not. Am I saying that everyone who dislikes Chikorita hates women? No. Am I saying that you are legally obliged to like the same Pokemon as I do? No. And I swear, anything you are thinking about commenting, I will...
Does Chikorita only, like, exist in a female form? Like, are there no male Chikoritas? Some Pokemon are like that. Or, like, males of their species are super duper rare. No, there are males? Okay, so it's not like all Chikoritas are girls or anything like that. So, is the idea just that, like, Chikoritas just got kind of like a feminine design? Yeah, I can see that. That's a fair argument.
We'll talk about in this video. What I really want to try to do here and understand better is if this disproportionate hate, at least from some people, might have its roots somewhere else other than just personal taste. But the truth is, I don't know. You don't know. By the end of this video, odds are, we both won't know for sure, dear stranger online. But it's an interesting question, right? It can definitely get us started on a path to learn more about the series, about gaming history, about marketing, and about, well, sexism. And isn't it nice to ask questions, to be curious, to investigate stuff?
Okay, this video might be making a good point. Because from what I understand, Pokemon was originally, in the design conception phase, going to be marketed at young girls and moms. Because the concept of it, and the idea of collecting these cute little animals didn't really, like, especially when it came to gaming at the time, wasn't the kind of thing that typically vibed well and meshed well with boys. But the creator, Satoshi, I believe, heavily insisted, like, no, we can unisex this. We can make this broadly appealing. And that was a big reason why Jigglypuff was dropped as the biggest potential mascot Pokemon. Like, if you go back to, like, original Pokemon material, a lot of it headlines Jigglypuff because they thought that the franchise was going to appeal so much more to girls and women that they didn't really bother trying to make it come off as, like, masculine. And so Jigglypuff was originally going to be, like, the Pikachu of Pokemon, but Pikachu quickly gained so much popularity, like at immense speeds, and quickly became the mascot, and for good reason. The logic was that Pikachu kind of straddles this perfect fine line between cute and cool. If you're, like, a young boy that wants your, like, Pokemon to be, like, cool little rambunctious bastards who can fight, like, you see Pikachu and you're like, yeah, little buddy, yeah, we're gonna go kick some ass together. You know, like, you don't have to be like, oh, he's so adorable, he's so cute. But then again, if you're a girl and you want your Pokemon to be little adorable creatures you collect, and that's what interests you, then, you know, Pikachu is perfect to meet that standard too. You can just look at Pikachu and be like, oh my god, he's so adorable, you know. And so, and his coloring was yellow, which was not something that really implied a girly or masculine thing, I guess. It was just this perfect design, and that's why, in large part, Pokemon likes to stick with Pikachu as their main mascot, is like the broadest appeal possible. Now he's basically grandfathered in. They'd never consider replacing him. But like he just kind of was the perfect design to have the widest appeal for the franchise. And so yeah, I just thought that was some fun little backstory to the early days of the franchise. Honestly, that helps explain why so many boys I knew were into Pokemon went on to transition. Yeah, it's like early on, Pokemon was very much expected to be a girl thing, and it just ended up blowing up with everybody, and they leaned into it hard, because why wouldn't they?
This here is just an essay, a rehearsal of an idea, and I'm not here to spit any golden nuggets of truth. I'm here to entertain a possibility, and try to understand why some people might think that my poor-lived Pokemon is being the victim of misogynist attacks. Instead of saying who's right and who's not and start calling each other names, I just want to do something a bit cooler. Something that people on the internet very rarely do. I want to try to understand why people might think the way they do. We are all products of culture, right? A lot of things have happened in Game Freak around the world since Chikorita was first presented in 1999. Not only that, many things have happened before that led to her creation in the first place. Context is key, and Chikorita has been receiving a lot of hate since, well, 1999 from the Pokemon community. A community that was much different then than it is now, that had some practices and some jokes, and even a demographic that is completely unimaginable when you look at it today. What I'm trying to say is that
I think it's worth pointing out, though, Bulbasaur is literally Pokemon number 1 in the Pokédex, right? Isn't Bulbasaur, like, the first Pokemon? Like, if you want to argue, like, the Pokemon is Bulbasaur. Like, in a meta sense, not in the lore sense, but, like, in a metatextual sense, Bulbasaur is the first Pokemon. Like, he's first in the Dex, right? Chat's saying no, don't do this. My point being, when you, like, a lot of people, I feel like, when it comes to the grass starter, probably see, it's Rhydon. Really? Rhydon's number 1? I thought when you look at the Pokédex, Bulbasaur is number 1. Is that true? I wish I had my phone on me right now so I could check, but okay. If you say so. There are 4 first Pokemon. There's so many candidates for number 1. Rhydon. No. I don't mean developed first. I understand. Okay, I see where you guys are misunderstanding. I mean in the Pokédex. And I think even on the table, the leftmost Pokeball is Bulbasaur, right? Chat's being dumb? Okay, good, Bouth, yeah. A lot of people in chat are sometimes incapable of understanding what I mean when I say something, and so I just got to ignore their misunderstanding and push through because they'll figure it out. But yeah, so 001 Bulbasaur, right? When you look at the Pokédex, when you go to when you look at the starters, he's one of the starters. I think for a lot of people, mentally, they might consider Bulbasaur the first Pokemon, or like the prime Pokemon. Not like, I don't know how else to describe it, but like he's number 1, you know? He's Smitty Wergenbergerman Jensen or whatever the meme was, right? Or Smitty, I don't remember the whole name, but regardless, I feel like when Gen 2 came along and Chikorita was the grass starter, I feel like there is this high burden placed on whoever would be replacing Bulbasaur as the grass starter in Gen 2. And Chikorita just didn't measure up to Bulbasaur, and I think that's why there's always been so much negativity about it from day 1 of Gold and Silver. Do you guys think that's the community felt let down? So you guys think I'm right there? Like that people look at Bulbasaur as the guy, right? The grass Pokemon, Bulbasaur. Chikorita was the first Pokemon that attempted to do what Bulbasaur does, to be Bulbasaur, and couldn't measure up. I think that is a stain that Chikorita might never live down. Now, it's fine if you love Chikorita and it's your favorite, but I think that's a pretty fair... I mean, I wasn't there for this, to be clear, so maybe I have no right to assume. That's why I'm polling a lot of chatters who I know are Pokemon fans, but that's like... That's kind of what I always... that's kind of the vibe that I've gotten.
to understand Chikorita hate, I think we need to look first at weird Nintendo commercials from the 90s. The Nintendo and Sega neck-to-neck competition was probably the defining aspect of the gaming industry in the years leading up to Pokemon's creation. In order to compete against the blue hedgehog that's gotta go fast, Nintendo needed to up their game. They pivoted from their family-oriented marketing to some more aggressive strategies by launching the Play It Loud campaign. Red, cool, skateboard, Charlie Brown Jr. This campaign was aimed at Nintendo's core audience, which was young boys. And this led up to Dear Stranger Online. Well, maybe it's better if I just show you some ads.
Will thou save the girl or play like one?
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo.
But why boys? Like, why are video games targeted at boys?
That's fucking crazy. Holy shit.
Specifically, does that make any sense? Well, here's the deal. According to a nice video I watched by Adam Conover, at the beginning of the 80s with the great video game crash and everything, Nintendo decided that they would stop selling in the technology section of your local Costco and start selling in the toys department instead. It does actually make a lot of sense, Nintendo being originally a toy company, and well, toys are probably the most aggressively gendered section of any store on the planet. Instead of marketing to families, they had to pick one gender out of only two, which is too few, I think. And since it's easier to sell boy stuff to girls rather than selling girl stuff to boys, they chose the blue lane. 20 years later, in the early 2000s, marketing and...
I feel like Pokemon and The Sims gotta be like the most like cultural bridging games out there for like, because games were so heavily marketed at boys for decades, to the point where gaming is considered, many would say, like a boys club. I feel like, though, when I was a teenager, or not even a teenager, when I was younger, the one game I always knew that girls played was Pokemon. Every girl at my school had a DS and whipped it out to play some Pokemon at lunch. Like, Pokemon was almost seen as an exception to gaming. Same goes for, like, The Sims, where these games, like, actually built and marketed themselves to the point where they attracted a female audience that might have never played video games otherwise. I was a Sims person and still am. I know it's, like, a running joke that, like, every girl you know that plays video games has a Sims save file that's just, like, nonstop war crimes and shit that they need to go to, like, a trial for, to be like the Hague type shit. Yeah, war crimes.
And culture had completely changed and solidified the pure nugget of truth that gaming is for boys. I have girlfriends that only got into video games in their 20s because their parents would never buy them a console as a kid. It wasn't for them. It was a boy thing, like cars, sports, and having a crush on Wolf Glick. Gaming had become a majorly masculine environment, both offline and in the ever-growing online communities that were forming. And I'm not sure if you, dear stranger line, were around back then, but let me tell you something. In the 2000s, anything that was made for girls was mocked relentlessly, specifically 13-year-old girls. The Twilight books were constantly made fun.
Justin Bieber. Oh my god, dude. Can't forget Justin Bieber. Better bring up Justin Bieber. That is the example, dude. Okay, to be fair, Twilight does suck dick, though. Okay? Like, it does, as a piece of media, suck dick. And here's the thing. I usually don't lose my mind. That's not... I don't think that's a frame from Twilight, by the way. I think that looks like it's from a parody. But I have watched, I think, all the Twilight movies at this point. I might be wrong, but, like, my mom used to be into them and would watch them on TV. And sometimes I just sit and be there, and it's like... And even she doesn't like them. I don't know why she was watching them, because she doesn't even like them. And so they're very like kind of movies. But what really stuck with me, okay? The main reason I don't like Twilight to this day is that we need to acknowledge how fucking creepy this entire concept of a series was, how unacknowledged and at most lampshaded that fact is, and how unanimously so many young girls were like, yeah, I want a immortal old man to come groom me. It's like, no, this is not a good piece of media. What the fuck? This is so creepy. Like, culturally, metatextually, it's creepy. In the real world, it's creepy. It's creepy that, like, who's reading and liking it? Yeah, dude. Twilight got some warranted hate, but the point made by the creator here does still stand, and I see where they're coming from here. The, like, performative virtue signaling hate for anything girly that was so prevalent in the 2000s and early 2010s. Dude, you legit do not understand how fucking creepy and gross the books are. The movies are so much better in that respect, if for no other reason than the performances. Yeah, I mean, like, Robert Pattinson and, why am I blanking on Bella's actress's name? Like, they're good, like, they're good actors, and they're, like, likable people. I don't dislike the performances. Kristen Stewart. Yeah, Kristen Stewart and, Robert Pattinson are very talented. They're cool people. As far as I know, they haven't gotten any, like, insane scandals or anything, but, yeah.
Fun of all the time, anywhere you looked at in 2010. YouTubers made entire careers out of it. And K-pop and tween Justin Bieber, who only started getting more respect after directing his sound to a male audience. They were constantly harassed in blogs and comedy shows and Twitter. In the meanwhile, movies that were instead aimed at 13-year-old boys, like Transformers, had some jokes about too many explosions here and there, but never saw a glimpse of the hate that things like Twilight had. Whether it's young adult novels, super hulock, or fanfiction, anything that...
I get the point, but I also feel like there's an we're kind of underselling how much people make fun of Michael Bay movies and Transformers. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, once a season, Family Guy does, like, an entire episode that just makes fun of Michael Bay. Like, everybody... I think everyone's made a joke about, making jokes about Michael Bay movies being just explosions and nonstop, like, action and no story has been, like, a thing for... So I get the main point, but I kind of also feel like... I don't know, maybe this is like a dude thing for me, right? Like, as a dude, I'm not seeing what they are because of my, like, lack of sensitivity to certain, like, vibes. And I do feel like a lot of this stuff is, you just kind of, you pick up on vibes from people. Not everyone is honest about why they are doing what they're doing. And so I can kind of get if there are the unmistakable vibes of misogyny surrounding the hate for Chikorita, because that can be hard to explain without just trying to give someone the context that you exist in that gave you that vibe, you know? I'm so sorry. I'm drinking a Monster and I can't stop burping. Excuse me, guys. I watched this whole video through a couple days ago and I think she's making good points. Okay. Yeah, I think the points are pretty good too. I just think the overall, like, thesis is a little definitive. This is not the only video about this, by the way. There are other creators that have made, like, outright definitive statements saying that it is misogynistic to be mad about Chikorita as the grass starter. But this is the only one I've found that seems to make, like, a genuine argument about why.
That was made with young girls in mind would suffer backlash or mockery in online and specifically gaming spaces. Even though teenage girls are always literally in the vanguard that dictates where the future of pop culture is headed to, they will always be bullied just for liking stuff. That's also when memes like the "there are no girls on the internet" showed up, trying to enforce that women could never be actually welcomed in nerdy online spaces. If they tried to join, they would be victim of abuse and misogyny, as is the case with the "make me a sandwich" meme that was quite popular in the 2000s. And still today, mainstream gaming spaces continue to be quite aggressive towards women, as any woman who has ever been in a gaming voice chat can tell you. Alongside the misogynistic fiasco that was Gamergate and the woke games list that basically call any game with a female protagonist woke, I think we can all agree, being a girl and liking video games is hard.
Dude, I need you to understand, when I talk to, like, friends of mine that are just casual gamers, they'll post those, like, woke game boycott lists without context as a joke. Like, because the fact they're being made is so hilariously stupid that just posting an image of one or a link to one makes everybody laugh. These are people who do not care at all about politics, they're just gamers, and they'll occasionally mention these anti-woke game boycott lists as these just ridiculous, like, who are the losers making this shit? And that's, like, all that is thought about these things. I hope you know that within, like, a lot of the normal gaming community, they see these, like, anti-woke, anti-DEI gamer bros making, like, woke game boycott lists, and are like, what the fuck are you doing? They'll even show, like, apparently the Metal Gear Solid is woke, guys. Or like, oh, guys, FF14 is woke. Oh, no. Oh, guys, I have to refund Avowed. Apparently it's woke, guys. Like, people are genuinely starting to see it as the joke that it's always been.
But let me get back to the 2000s. Gaming was heavily marketed at boys. It was an overwhelmingly male-dominated space. And this was the case even with Nintendo games in the USA, in very, very weird ways. As fellow content creator Randy Moon goes over in their video, why were video game ads so weird?
Therefore, they decided to go with the by then well-proven method of advertising the handheld to a primarily male college-aged audience. And this is evident in just how sexual a lot of the ads were. Exhibit A.
Touch me.
Wow, very suggestive and hot. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the meeting where they came up with that one.
But do you know what would happen when something that was initially marketed at boys turned out to have some aspects that were...
Okay. We are doing a little bit of narrativizing here, okay? We're doing a little bit of narrativizing here. When these when these games and consoles came out, I've seen a lot of these ads, alright? The ads for the Game Boy, where it's like a hot lady in a bed, and the guy's like, sorry, I don't have any time to fuck you right now. I gotta play my Game Boy. I got Pokemon to catch, you harlot. Those ads were not the same ads being shown on children's television meant to be advertised at young boys. Those were the ads that were airing on late-night cable television for the dudes staying up at like 3 a.m. still watching TV on a work night. The kinds of dudes who at that time in their adult life would be the market for that kind of game device. Because they've got money. Like that would be who you would make those ads for. Companies do this all the time. They make ads that are meant to be family friendly and approachable, and they'll even make ads that are super weird and sexualized, right? Like what is it? Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, I think is the company name. Like they do these like hyper sexualized barbecue ads, but then they also do like family restaurant ads or ads for a family restaurant. I feel like we're narrativizing a little bit. All these Nintendo and Game Boy ads were not all like hyper sexualized. Some of them were, though, because back then advertising was crazy, and they would make a broad variety of crazy out-of-pocket advertisements for different like demographics they're trying to target.
A little bit more girl-friendly, exactly what happened to Jennifer's Body in 2007, a horror movie written by the incredible Diablo Cody that was marketed as a "wow, Megan Fox is so hot" movie, but it was actually a feminist tale of body ownership and female friendship aimed at young women. It was review bombed, universally hated, and almost ended Diablo Cody's career. This is a video about Chikorita, I know, but this was me setting the stage, dear stranger in line, painting the picture of the cultural background around gaming and around Pokemon in the United States at the turn of the millennium. I'm trying to say that, mostly in the early 2000s, having something made for girls in the middle of your boy product would result in hate, bullying, shames.
I feel like the fundamental premise, though, because I agree with all of the supporting argument up until the claim of Chikorita is for girls. And while I know on a meta level that the Pokemon Company, like they want to appeal to boys and girls, right? Like if you want to tell me that some Pokemon have like girly designs and this is meant to be a Pokemon for girls, I can believe that, right? Like I feel like Sylveon is probably one of the most undeniable examples of that, right? Like, can we all agree this is a Pokemon for girls? I mean, look at the card, bro. Holy shit. So here's Sylveon. The one of the evolutions that you can do, right? The trans flag Pokemon also. Yes, pink, blue, and white. Look at the Sylveon EX card. Like, this is very clearly a Pokemon meant to appeal to girls more than boys. I think that is objectively and very obviously true. But when it comes to Chikorita, I can kind of see it, but I also feel like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Chikorita is a very broadly appealing design. Like, it's a little creature that evolves into like a dinosaur leaf type Pokemon similar to Bulbasaur, right? It's trying to do what Bulbasaur did, but long neck dinosaur rather than like little stumpy frog dinosaur creature. And I just don't think it really pulls it off as well necessarily. Like I like Bulbasaur and Venusaur more than Chikorita personally, but like I wouldn't say it's a design for girls. I feel like if anything, it's like, I mean, Chikorita is one of the 3 starters, right? It's meant to be a very broadly appealing design. I don't know. I feel like that fundamental claim is a bit of a stretch. All of the background supporting arguments I agree with, but like Chikorita is for girls just seems reductive and like an impossible claim to make. It's unfalsifiable, but it's also impossible to back up unless like somewhere, and maybe I'll get epically destroyed here, it could happen, unless somewhere like Satoshi, the creator of Pokemon, said, oh yeah, by the way, we figured with this new generation for Gen 2, with Johto, we decided to add a starter for girls because so many girls liked the first Pokemon game, and that's Chikorita. Maybe that quote exists, but besides that, it feels presumptuous, you know what I mean?
Jokes, you name it. It happened to Koha and it happened to Ellie. And yes, Pokemon was marketed mainly at boys back then. If you look at early Pokemon commercials, only boys would appear in them. But the Nintendo of America marketing team is not Game Freak. Oh no, back in Japan, the Pokemon Company had other ideas of where this series was heading to. And before Gen 2 came out, this was something that showed mainly in the anime. I have said this in some videos before, but I cannot stress enough how important the gender neutrality of the Pokemon anime was in the 90s. In a context where most animes would show buff guys with spiky hair fighting or sword-wielding knights saving the princess, Pokemon was really ahead of its time by showing girls, feminine girls or tomboys with desires, aspirations of their own, girls who despite what they looked like, were incredibly skilled trainers and fully fledged characters. I would argue, even more importantly than that, femininity was never mocked in the Pokemon anime. It was okay to have feminine coded interests. It was celebrated even. Femininity was embraced openly.
There's some problem. Listen, I could do a video essay about early Pokemon and their tendency to frame James's tendency to cross-dress and dress because you'll notice that any time where Team Rocket wants to disguise themselves as a man and a woman, Jesse cross-dresses as a man, James cross-dresses as a woman, and there feels like there could be some like weird undertones to that, but then again, the show constantly makes jokes about how James makes a hot woman. Like when James cross-dresses, people comment that he's prettier than Jesse is. Like that there's like running jokes that James slays when he cross-dresses. So it's like, if you knew James's I don't know his full backstory, so maybe that has something to do with it. But like, I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen far enough to know yet. I'm still in season 4. I'm in season 2 of the Johto arc, so we'll see. That's just the vibe that I got.
Only discussed by Misty, Erica, Jesse, and Brock and James. And I mean, it's the 90s, some things would be off, sure, but it was miles ahead of almost everything for kids on TV back then, and this was incredibly important to many girls growing up back then, and they made sure to comment about it in a bunch of my videos before. The first Pokemon games were stitched together with duct tape and a dream, but for the sequel, you can really feel that Game Freak wanted to expand, and that expansion would include everyone. Chikorita debuted in the same generation that girls could play as themselves on screen, and I cannot stress how important the addition of Chris was, that early into the series. The protagonist in Pokemon is almost always a self-insert, and having girls being able to play with someone closer to themselves was really important for the game staying as popular as it did. But not only Chris, creature design in Pokemon was also starting to head in new directions. Lead designer Ken Sugimori has said before in interviews that his approach for creating Pokemon was always closer to kaiju rather than kawaii. This interview here was given shortly after the Gold and Silver releases. With Pokemon, it was more that I wanted to create kaiju who could fight on your side as an ally, in a more cartoonish, exaggerated style. As I drew more and more of them, I started to figure out how to give them more interesting expressions, or to make them look dopey or disgusting. I wasn't the only person creating Pokemon. There were 5 or 6 other designers working on them too. As you can imagine, each designer had a certain style or type of Pokemon that was their specialty. One of them was great at making cute Pokemon, another one was all about the weird Pokemon, and so forth. If you allow me to read a little bit between the lines here, when he talks about a designer that has cuteness as their specialty, Atsuko Nishida comes to mind. When Sugimori saw that he had difficulties in creating cute Pokemon, he called Nishida to help, and she ended up creating the most iconic Gen 1 designs, such as Pikachu, the full starter trio, and Charizard. I looked very hard, but I couldn't find out if she...
I feel like this is a pretty good point, but I also find a weird... I don't know. Like, one of my favorite things about Pokemon are the cute Pokemon. Like, I feel like I say on a daily basis at this point that if Eevees were real, I would have one as a pet. They're so fucking cute. They remind me of my childhood dog, my little Pomeranian. Like, I think that the cuteness of a lot of the Pokemon is appealing. Like, even as a guy, it's like, oh, look at the adorable little creature, right? Like Fuecoco. I have like 80 shiny Fuecocos I've saved up from the recent event in Pokemon Go, because I just think Fuecoco is a goofy little guy. Also, I don't know, it just seems weird to claim that like cute Pokemon are a thing for girls. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm girly because I appreciate cute little scrunglies to collect, but like, I don't know. And then there's also the fact that like cuteness is very subjective, you know? Like, I see some people will think that Pikachu is the cutest fucking Pokemon ever. Others will think Meryl is the cutest Pokemon they've ever seen. I've seen others say that, what's the little frog guy? What's the little frog? Little frog Pokemon. What's his name? Froakie. My mom thinks Froakie is the cutest Pokemon ever. Little guy. Little dude, right? So, like, cuteness is very subjective as well. And it feels like everyone, like, if you ask someone, who do you think the cutest Pokemon is? Like, a different kind of cute is going to be what you get every time. Like, some are going to go for something fluffy. Some are going to go for something, like, majestic. Some are going to go for something stumpy and small. Some are going to go for something kind of ugly looking and dopey, like Psyduck. Some are going to go for, like, yeah, it's just, like, I feel like, it's not just that Pokemon pulls off cute creature designs. It's that the range of cuteness is so diverse that no matter what you find cute, guy or girl, you will find a Pokemon fucking adorable, and you will see it and be like, I wish I had that as a pet to, like, pet and cuddle and have as my, like, little scrungly I take care of, right? Like, some Pokemon will, like, hit you in the cute center of your brain and make you want to have one and take care of it. If I remember, the creator of the cute Pokemon designs was a Japanese man with a lot of cute pets he used for inspiration. Yeah, I mean, I think the femininity connection is there, though it's being narrativized a little bit. So I think this is a very vibes-based situation, but I get it. You know, a lot of I get that there are some rancid vibes around the Chikorita hate. I can kind of see that now, but I do feel like it's a little bit... It is still a little bit narrativized, but I see where the rancid vibes are at.
She was involved in the creation of the Generation 2 starter trio, but having created Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, it's hard to think that she wasn't a major voice for the sequel. I did find this interview on Dr. Lava's blog, which is the most incredible source for English language Game Freak interviews online. In this one, Nishida talks about the creation of Sylveon and Espeon, and I think this gives great insight into the creative process behind Gen 2.
Sylveon.
Nishida, do you feel like there's an evolution that really went in a new direction? Of course, each Pokemon is influenced by the region and configuration of the game they're created for, but as far as innovation, I would say Sylveon. We really wanted to emphasize its fairy team. As far as its figure, were they all kind of girly like the Sylveon we have now? And Nishida says, yeah, they were all the same style since it's a fairy type. Speaking of being feminine, Espeon also has that same kind of vibe. It's very slim and even has hips, which was quite unique.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Fairy type got added in Gen 2, right? If that's true, that's actually a really good argument to their point. In Gen 6? Oh. Okay. So that's way later. Alright, well, fair, yeah. Okay. Well, fairy types, I feel like when they added fairy, Dark was added in Gen 2. I feel like when they added fairy, you could definitely claim that was, like, an attempt to, like, broaden the appeal of Pokemon more to a audience, like a feminine audience.
Unique for its time. I guess in trying to make it look mysterious, it ended up looking feminine. I think it's really interesting to hear.
Well, I guess there's always been Pokemon that would become fairy type, but I guess they were just normal types before.
Nishida say that ending up with a feminine design was unique for its time. Gen 2. It shows that this was kind of uncharted territory, right? This wasn't a big concern for Pokemon in Gen 1, but Gen 2? Now we want to actively start to create some creatures for the girls to use, for the people who would choose Chris as their character. With Gen 2, Game Freak wanted girls to better see themselves in their games and have their own Pokemon adventures. And of course, if you want to have girls playing, you have to make at least one of the starters one that they might identify more with. And yes, we had our Clefairies and Chanseys before.
But the concept of fairy Pokemon has existed since Gen 2. Okay, so the argument stands. If they introduced the concept of fairy Pokemon in Gen 2, then that does kind of make sense. That does, like, kind of line up with this idea that Gen 2 was a deliberate move to market and accommodate girls who played Pokemon, and that this triggered a lot of boys in a way that they may not even realize is kind of rooted in misogyny.
But with Chikorita, it's a bit different. She's being offered to you, you can't avoid her. And to choose a starter Pokemon is to actively reject the other two, and that makes it a more special encounter than if you randomly ran into it in a cave. There's a tiny emotional bond, a small moment that you may have considered bringing Chikorita alongside you. And how dare they imply that I would ever consider choosing this girly pair? And if you, as a boy, did consider Chikorita, liked Chikorita, or chose Chikorita, you would also be mocked and judged and suffer the same backlash that Twilight did.
Huh.
In this male-dominated...
I just realized Chikorita is based on a pear. I had not picked up on that. I had not picked up on that just yet.
Chikorita, liked Chikorita, or chose Chikorita, you would also be mocked and judged and suffer the same backlash that Twilight did. In this male-dominated environment, a boy was never allowed to validate that something marketed for girls could actually be good. For a boy, everything that was more female-oriented was forbidden and out of reach. So you had to double down. You had to prove you would never, ever choose it. Because Chikorita sucks. It's the worst starter of all time. And in the comment section below, there will be a lot of people writing that, what?
I love how Pokemon as a franchise managed to avoid that, though. Because I feel like when I look back growing up, I feel like I was the only kid not playing Pokemon. It wasn't like a boy-girl thing. It was just like I was the odd one out who didn't have Pokemon cards, who didn't have like a DS or a Game Boy Advance, had never played a Pokemon game, had barely watched the anime. I could barely, like, I could only name the most iconic of Gen 1 Pokemon. Like, I felt like such an odd one out. And I look back and, you know, my memory might be a little bit skewed in some ways, but I just remember it as being like, I just think it's kind of crazy that Pokemon had such broad appeal my entire childhood, and that I don't ever feel like there was a point where anyone argued Pokemon is for boys, Pokemon is for girls. But I guess there might have been arguments over what Pokemon were for boys or for girls, and I think that's actually kind of something beautiful, right? Like, the fact that Pokemon as a game is so accessible and so widely consumed that the debate isn't even whether or not about, or what isn't about whether or not Pokemon is for boys or for girls. It's about which Pokemon are for boys or for girls. I think that's kind of a beautiful thing. I feel like that's something very unique in gaming, you know? I feel like few games have that level of, like, diverse audience where there's an actual conversation about, like, what characters are girly and only girls play them, right? Like, I guess RPGs, in a way, have that, where there's, like, the belief that, like, girls always play supports in RPGs or team games that involve, like, different roles being played, but that's the closest thing I can think of. That's really the closest I can think of. Anyway, that said, no hate to Chikorita, and of course, no hate to this creator. I do think it is a little bit of, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a meme situation, but I get where they're coming from. Zan got me into Poke MMO a day ago. I hope you're enjoying it. I don't like that green thing because it made me restart my first playthrough of Gold almost 25 years ago. It was just so ill-fitted for its debit game and defensive/supportive role. It is quite useless in single-player campaigns of any Pokemon game. I do think it's at least part of it, but I also want to add in some other ideas to it. Now, I think it being a grass starter is a part of it because, let's be real, the grass is always like the underdog choice that so many side with, either a fire or water starter for the most part. I don't think anywhere like the number 2 or one or two most common choice until maybe Snivy. And for Chikorita specifically, I think the sprite didn't help it. You got something that doesn't really look like an animal, but it has a leaf on its head and has a necklace. I know it's seed buds, but no one could guess that. Which at least Bulbasaur looked like a frog dinosaur thingy. Yes, it shows off it being a plant brontosaurus with its evolution, but just regular Chikorita doesn't really show that. It makes me wonder if they should have made Chikorita look more like a dinosaur or a dragon. Its design isn't the one that really stands out like Cyndaquil's fire, and isn't something super familiar like Totodile, which was easily identifiable. Yeah, I think a lot of this is vibes, but I'm glad that, like, the Pokemon community has not devolved into completely aimless nonsense discourse, it seems. But man, the Chuds are definitely taking advantage of this conversation being had because of how even I found it somewhat ridiculous of a claim on its face, right? Anyway, link to the original video if you guys want to go check it out and send some support. Drop a like, drop a comment, even subscribe. There will be a link down below in the description if you guys want to go send some support over to the original channel. But of course, if you want to support me, you can always leave a like and a comment down below on my video. Supporting the channel and engaging is the best way to boost it in the algorithm and get it seen by more people, and is pretty much the only way that we counter this right-wing media takeover that we're all enduring right now. And of course, if you want to see more from me, you can subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the future, because believe me, if you don't, they won't. And of course, if you want to support me directly, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then be sure to consider supporting me financially by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xanderhall merch from the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching, as always, and I hope you have a good one.